The morning sky over Seoul turned dark at exactly 9:47 a.m. Daeho looked up from his coffee and saw them. Massive ships, bigger than mountains, blocking out the sun. His cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor, but he barely noticed. Everyone around him stood frozen, staring upward with open mouths. The alien ships hung there, silent and threatening. There were 12 of them spread across Earth's orbit, visible from every continent. Each one was black as midnight, with strange lights pulsing along their sides. They had appeared without warning, without sound, as if they had simply materialized out of nothing. Daeho ran to his car. As a captain in the United Earth Defense Force, he needed to get to headquarters immediately. The streets were chaos. People were screaming, running, trying to call their families. Cars crashed into each other as drivers looked up instead of forward. The world was panicking, and Daeho couldn't blame them. At headquarters, the Situation Room was packed with officers and scientists. Admiral Park was already there, his face pale and tired. G1, the chief science officer, stood by a large screen showing the alien vessels. She had been Daeho's friend since their academy days, and he could see the fear in her eyes despite her calm expression. "They've been scanning us for the past hour," G1 said quietly. "Every military base, every city, every resource on the planet. They know everything about us now." Before anyone could respond, the screens flickered, a face appeared. It wasn't human. The alien had gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, and a mouth that seemed too wide. When it spoke, the words came through perfectly in every human language simultaneously. "Humans of Earth, I am Commander Throck of the Velther Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our civilization. You have 48 hours to surrender. Disable all weapons, dismiss your military forces, and prepare for processing. If you comply, most of you will survive as workers. If you resist, we will eliminate you and take your world anyway. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. The room exploded with voices. Some officers shouted about fighting back. Others argued that resistance was suicide. Admiral Park held up his hand for silence. "Get me everything we know about these ships," he ordered. "Weapons capabilities, shield strength, anything. We meet in 2 hours to discuss options." Daeho left with G1 and found Hyun-soo waiting outside. The young engineer looked nervous but excited. Hyun-soo had always been different from other engineers. He thought in strange ways, suggested wild ideas that senior officers usually dismissed. But Daeho had learned to listen to him. "I've been analyzing their ships," Hyun-soo said, pulling out his tablet. "Look at this. They're powerful, yes. Their shields can stop any weapon we have. Their plasma cannons could destroy our cities in minutes. But Captain, they're arrogant. Look at how they position themselves." He showed them a diagram. The Velther ships were spread out in a perfect geometric pattern, completely exposed. They weren't even trying to hide or protect themselves from attack. "They don't think we're a threat," everyone realized. "They've done this before, many times. They show up, make threats, and species surrender?" "Exactly," Hyun-soo said. "I checked our historical databases. There are old reports, unconfirmed, about other worlds going silent. Colonies that stopped transmitting. We thought it was technical problems or natural disasters, but what if it was them?" Daeho felt cold anger building in his chest. These aliens thought humans would just give up. They thought Earth was just another easy conquest. He thought about his sister and her children. He thought about every person on this planet who deserved to live free. "We need to find their weakness," he said firmly. "Every system has a weakness. We have 48 hours. They work through the night." G1 analyzed every scan they had of the alien vessels. Hyun-soo compared the Velther technology to human systems, looking for differences they could exploit. Daeho coordinated with military bases around the world, preparing for whatever plan they could develop. The United Earth Council met and debated surrender. Most council members argued that fighting was pointless. The Velther had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had technology centuries beyond humanity's capabilities. What chance did Earth have? But there were others who refused to give up. The North American representative, the African Union speaker, the Pacific Alliance delegate, they all stood firm. They would rather die fighting than live as slaves? The vote was close, but the council decided to delay surrender. They would give the military 40 hours to find a solution. 40 hours. Daeho felt the weight of an entire planet on his shoulders. On the second day, Hyun-soo burst into the strategy room with wild eyes. "I found something." "Captain G1, look at this." He'd projected his findings onto the main screen. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and fast-moving projectiles. That's what advanced civilizations use, right? Plasma cannons, laser weapons, railguns. But look at the frequency pattern of their shields. One leaned forward, studying the data. Her eyes widened. They're optimized for high-energy impacts. They're not designed for slower, irregular attacks. Our old missile systems, Daeho said slowly, understanding dawning. The ones we retired 20 years ago because they were too primitive. Exactly, Hyun-soo was almost jumping with excitement. They've been fighting advanced civilizations for so long they've never faced anyone using basic kinetic weapons. It's like they've forgotten that simple things can work too. Gu-1 was already running calculations. It's not just the weapons, it's tactics too. They fight in organized formations using proven strategies. They're efficient and deadly, but they're predictable. If we attack them in chaotic, random patterns, their targeting systems would struggle. Daeho felt hope for the first time since the aliens arrived. It wasn't much, but it was something. Humans had always been good at improvising, at using whatever they had in creative ways. Maybe that was their advantage? Not better technology, but better adaptability. "We need to test this," he said. "And we need more than just weapons, we need a complete strategy." They spent the remaining hours building a plan. It was desperate and risky. Many people would die, but it gave them a chance, and that was more than they had before. As the deadline approached, Daeho stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, looking at Earth below. Beautiful, blue, and worth fighting, for the countdown reached 0. Daeho opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is Captain Daeho. In a few minutes, the Velther will attack. They think we'll surrender? They think we're weak. Let's show them what humans really are, for Earth, for freedom, for everyone we love." The Velther fleet began moving toward Earth. The battle was about to begin. The Velther ships moved slowly toward Earth like sharks circling prey. On the Indomitable's bridge, Daeho watched the tactical display with focused intensity. Every ship in Earth's defense fleet was in position, waiting for his command. His hands were steady, but his heart pounded in his chest. "Captain, they're charging weapons," one reported from her station. "Multiple targets locked on our major cities." "Hold position," Daeho ordered. "Wait for my signal." Across the fleet, he knew crews were terrified. The alien ships were so much bigger than Earth's vessels. One Velther destroyer was larger than their entire Pacific fleet combined. But size wasn't everything. Daeho had learned that from his grandfather, who had been a martial artist. A small fighter could defeat a large opponent if they were smart and quick. "Sir." Incoming transmission from the Velther. The communications officer announced. Commander Throke's face appeared on the screen again. The alien's 4 eyes showed amusement, almost boredom. "This is your final chance, humans. Power down your weapons and surrender. Your ships are like toys compared to ours. Why sacrifice lives for nothing?" Daeho stood tall. "Because those lives are ours to choose what to do with, not yours." Throke's expression didn't change. "Foolish? Your species will be extinct within the hour." The transmission ended. "All ships, battle stations," Daeho commanded. "Execute Plan Chaos on my mark." In another part of the fleet, Taeyang sat in his fighter cockpit, breathing slowly to calm his nerves. He was the best pilot in the Asian Defense Wing, known for doing maneuvers that shouldn't be possible. Other pilots called him crazy. He called it creative. "Viper Squadron, ready?" he asked over the comm. "Ready, boss," came the replies from his team. 20 small fighters against an armada. But they weren't planning to win with force. They were planning to confuse. Remember the training, Taeyang said. No patterns, no formations. Fly like you're drunk. Make them guess what you'll do next because even you won't know. On Earth's surface, Mikyung stood in the command center of the Seoul defense grid. She had fortified the city as much as possible in 40 hours. Railguns, missile batteries, and old artillery pieces that museums had donated. Nothing fancy, but everything that could shoot. All batteries report ready, her second-in-command said. Mikyung nodded. She had been a soldier for 15 years, fought in conflicts around the world. But she had never faced anything like this. She thought about her daughter, evacuated to the underground shelters with millions of others. Whatever happened today would decide if her daughter had a future. In the intelligence center beneath Tokyo. Sora's fingers flew across her keyboard. She had been trying to hack the Velther communications for 2 days straight. The alien encryption was sophisticated, but she had found something interesting. They used a central relay system, a single command frequency that coordinated all their ships. If I can just jam this frequency, she muttered to herself, the whole network goes blind. Her assistant, a young programmer named Jinho, looked worried. Are you sure this will work? No, Sora admitted. But we have to try. Back on the Indomitable, Daeho received confirmation that all units were ready. This was it. The moment that would define humanity's future. He thought about his training, all the simulations and war games. None of them had prepared him for this. But maybe that was good. The Velther relied on predictable warfare. Humans would give them something they'd never seen. All ships, he announced. Fire at will. Show them chaos. The battle erupted across the sky. Earth's ships didn't attack in organized waves like military doctrine taught. They fired from random angles at random intervals, targeting different ships with no coordination. Missiles launched in curved, erratic paths. Fighters like Taeyang's squadron swarmed around the Velther. Vessels in unpredictable patterns, the Velther targeting computers struggled. They were designed to track organized formations and predict attack vectors. But the humans weren't following any rules. One moment a ship would charge forward, the next it would drift sideways and fire backward. It's working, Ji-1 shouted from her station. Their hit rate is down by 60%. They can't track our ships effectively. Hyensu's modified missiles, the old kinetic weapons, started hitting home. The Velther shields flickered and failed against the relatively slow-moving projectiles. Several missiles punched through and damaged hull plating. It wasn't critical damage, but it was damage. The invincible aliens could bleed. Taeyang laughed wildly as he spun his fighter through impossible spirals, firing whenever his weapons happened to point at an enemy. Viper Squadron, with me. Let's dance. His squadron followed, 20 fighters performing a ballet of chaos. The Velther tried to target them, but the fighters never stayed in one place long enough. Plasma shots missed by meters as the humans jinked and rolled. Then Sora made her move. She activated her jamming program, flooding the Velther command frequency with garbage data. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, across the alien fleet, ships began drifting out of position. Their coordination broke down. Some ships held fire, afraid of hitting their own allies. Others targeted wrong locations. Yes! Sora pumped her fist. I've got them. Their communications are scrambled. On the surface, Mikyung saw landing craft beginning to descend toward Seoul. She gave the order her crews had been waiting for. All batteries, open fire. The old railguns roared, firing simple metal slugs at high velocity. The landing craft's shields stopped most of them, but not all. 3 craft took hits and spiraled away, trailing smoke. It wasn't much, but it proved they could fight back. The battle raged for 2 hours. Earth's forces were taking heavy casualties. Ships exploded, fighters were destroyed, defense batteries were vaporized by return fire. But they were hurting the Velther too. The aliens had lost 2 destroyers and several smaller ships. For an empire that usually conquered worlds without losing a single vessel, this was shocking. Daeho watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They couldn't win this battle, not really. The Velthor still had overwhelming numbers, but they were making the aliens pay for every meter of space, every second of time. Then something unexpected happened. The Velthor fleet stopped advancing. They held position, not retreating but not attacking either. After a moment, Commander Throk's face appeared on screen again. This time, the amusement was gone from his expression. "Impossible," Throk said quietly. "No primitive species has ever—" "You damaged our ships. You actually damaged them." "We're just getting started," Deho replied coldly. Throk stared at him for a long moment. "This changes nothing. We will return with more ships, more weapons. And next time, we will show no mercy. Prepare for extinction, humans." The Velthor fleet began moving away from Earth, back toward the edge of the solar system. They weren't running, not exactly, but they were withdrawing, regrouping. On the Indomitable's bridge, the crew erupted in cheers. G1 hugged Hyunsu. Across all channels, Earth forces were celebrating. They had won. Impossibly, incredibly, they had driven the aliens back, but Deho didn't celebrate. He knew this was just the beginning. The Velthor would return, and next time they would be ready for human tactics. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "Well done, everyone. You saved Earth today, but they'll be back. We have maybe a week before they return with a bigger fleet. Use this time to prepare, to rest, to tell your families you love them. Because the real war is just starting." He closed the channel and looked at G1. "We need to get ready for round 2. The week after the battle felt both too long and too short. Earth cities buried their dead and prepared for the next attack. Deho barely slept, spending every hour planning, strategizing, trying to find any edge that could help humanity survive. On the third day, something strange happened. Sora received an encrypted message from deep space. She spent hours decrypting it, and when she finally succeeded, she couldn't believe what she was reading. She ran to find Deho in the strategy room. "Captain, you need to see this," she said breathlessly. Showing him her tablet. The message was short. "You are not alone. Other worlds resist. The Velthor are not unbeatable. Keep fighting." "The hidden ones? The hidden ones?" Deho asked. "Who are they?" "I don't know," Sora admitted. But the message included data files. Technical information about Velthor ships, their tactics, their weaknesses. "Someone out there wants us to win." One analyzed the data files immediately. "This is incredible. It shows their entire fleet structure, supply lines, communication protocols. With this information, we can hit them where it hurts." Over the next few days, more messages arrived. They came from different sources, different locations. Some were from conquered worlds where small groups still resisted in secret. Others came from unknown lies hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. All of them carried the same message. Earth's stand had inspired them. For thousands of years, the Velthor Empire had conquered without challenge. Species surrendered because resistance seemed pointless. But Earth had fought back and survived. News of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humans had proven that the Velthor could be hurt, could be beaten. Hyunsu used the new information to develop better weapons. He worked with engineering teams around the world, building devices that exploited Velthor weaknesses. They created special missiles that disrupted their shield frequencies. They designed jammers that could blind their sensors. They even found a way to hack into their automated systems using the protocols. Sora had discovered. Mi-kyung expanded Earth's defenses. She knew the next battle would be bigger, more brutal. Every city now had underground shelters capable of housing millions. Every military base had backup power and communication systems. Every soldier trained for urban combat. Knowing the aliens might actually land this time, Taeyang trained new pilots in unconventional flying. Many of his squadron had died in the first battle, and the losses hurt him deeply. But their sacrifice had proven his tactics worked. He pushed the new pilots hard, teaching them to think like dancers instead of soldiers, to move like water instead of marching like machines. "The Velthor are predictable," he told them during one training session. They expect you to attack from certain angles at certain speeds. So don't surprise them. Confuse them. Make them wonder what you'll do next, because you don't even know yourself. On the fifth day, Daeho received a visitor. Admiral Park called him to a private meeting. When Daeho arrived, he found the admiral looking older than before, the weight of command showing on his face. "Captain, I need to tell you something," Park said quietly. "The council is talking about surrender again. We lost 40,000 people in that battle. Good people. And when the Veltha return, the losses will be worse. Some council members think we should negotiate, try to get better terms." Daeho felt anger rising in his chest. "Better terms? You mean better slavery?" "Admiral, if we surrender now, everything those 40,000 people died for means nothing." "I know," Park said sadly. "And I agree with you. But you need to understand the pressure. People are scared. They're looking at their children and wondering if fighting is worth it. And if we don't fight," Daeho asked, "what future do those children have then? Working as slaves for aliens who see them as animals?" "No, Admiral. We keep fighting." "We have to," Park nodded slowly. "I hoped you'd say that. Because I'm putting you in charge of the entire defense fleet. I'm too old for this. But you have the fire we need. Don't let it go out." That night, Daeho stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking at Earth below. From space it looked so peaceful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It was hard to believe a war for survival was happening. G-1 found him there. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Too much to think about," he admitted. "What if we can't win? What if everything we're doing just delays the inevitable?" She stood beside him, also looking at Earth. "My grandmother used to tell me a story about a small bird that saw a forest fire. The bird flew to a river, took water in its beak, and flew back to drop it on the fire. Other animals laughed at the bird. 'What difference can you make?' they asked. The bird replied, 'I'm doing what I can.'" Daeho smiled slightly. "That's a nice story. We might not win," Ji-1 said honestly, "but we're doing what we can. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to inspire others to do the same. Look at those messages Sora received. We've already made a difference." On the seventh day, the Veltha returned. Their fleet was massive, 3 times larger than before. Ships filled the sky, blocking out stars. Daeho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and felt his stomach tighten. This was it. The real test. Commander Throke's face appeared on screen. "Humans, you had one chance to surrender peacefully. You chose war. Now you face the full might of the Veltha Empire. This time there will be no mercy. We will crush your ships, burn your cities, and erase your species from existence. Prepare to die?" The transmission ended. Daeho looked around at his crew. They were afraid, he could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. They had chosen to stand and fight, knowing they might die. That took courage. "All ships, battle stations," Daeho commanded. "Remember your training? Fight smart, fight hard, and don't give up. Whatever happens today, the galaxy is watching. Let's show them what humans are made of." The Veltha fleet advanced. This time they didn't move slowly. They came fast and aggressive, wanting to end the fight quickly. Their plasma cannons fired, filling space with deadly energy. Earth's fleet scattered like seeds in wind, using the chaos tactics that had worked before. But the Veltha had adapted. Their targeting computers now accounted for random movement patterns. Their hit rate improved. "They learned from the first battle," Ji-1 said grimly, watching ships explode on her display. "Then we adapt too," Daeho replied. "So Ra, activate the jamming systems. Hansu, launch everything we've got." The battle was fiercer than before. Earth's modified weapons hit hard, exploiting the weaknesses their alien allies had revealed. Several Veltha capital ships took critical damage. But Earth was losing ships too? Faster than before, Taeyang dove his fighter through a storm of plasma fire, his squadron following. They targeted the Velther communications arrays, the vulnerable points Sora had identified. One by one, the arrays exploded. On the ground, Mikyung watched as landing craft descended toward every major city. This time, the Velther were committing to a full invasion. She gave the order to fire. The battle raged for hours. Space and sky filled with fire and death. Both sides fought with everything they had. And slowly, impossibly, Earth began to hold. Not winning, but not losing either. Just holding on, Daeho realized something important. They didn't need to destroy the Velther fleet. They just needed to make the cost too high. Every ship the aliens lost was a ship they couldn't use to conquer other worlds. Every hour they spent fighting Earth was time they weren't expanding their empire. "We're fighting for more than just Earth," he said to Guwon. "We're fighting for every world that comes after us." She nodded, understanding. "Then let's make it count." The battle had been going for 6 hours straight. Daeho's eyes burned from staring at tactical displays. His throat was raw from shouting commands. Around him, the bridge crew worked like machines, exhausted but refusing to stop. The Indomitable had taken heavy damage, fires burning in 3 sections, but they kept fighting. "Captain, enemy reinforcements jumping in," Juwon called out. 20 more ships. "They're not stopping." Daeho's jaw tightened. How many ships did the Velther have? It seemed endless. Earth's fleet was down to half strength. They had fought brilliantly, using every trick and tactic they could think of. But numbers were starting to matter. Hyun-soo looked up from his engineering station, his face covered in sweat and soot. "Captain, I have an idea." "It's crazy, but everything we're doing is crazy." "Tell me," Daeho said. "The captured Velther tech we've been studying. I think I can create a device that destabilizes their power cores. It would cause a chain reaction, take out not just one ship but everything near it." "How near?" Juwon asked. "Very near," Hyun-soo admitted. "The device would need to be planted directly on their flagship. And whoever plants it won't be able to escape the explosion." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. "A suicide mission. I'll do it," Daeho said immediately. "No," Juwon protested. "You're needed here." "The fleet needs you?" "The fleet needs a chance to survive," Daeho replied. "If we take out the flagship and enough ships around it, maybe the rest will retreat. It's our best shot." Before anyone could argue further, alarms blared. The Velther had broken through the outer defenses. Landing craft were hitting every continent now. Mikyung's voice came through on the general channel, tight with stress. "Ground forces are engaged across all cities. They're landing troops in heavy numbers. We're holding, but I don't know for how long." In Seoul, Mikyung fired her rifle at the advancing alien soldiers. The Velther ground troops were large, heavily armored, and moved in perfect coordination. But they made a mistake. They expected humans to break and run. Instead, human soldiers fought from every building, every street corner, using their knowledge of their own cities against the invaders. "Fall back to checkpoint 3, Mikyung ordered her unit. "Use the subway tunnels." Her soldiers retreated in organized chaos, firing as they moved. The Velther followed, walking into ambush set by other units. It wasn't enough to win, but it bought time. Above the planet, Taeyong's fighter dodged through a maze of debris and weapons fire. His squadron was down to 6 ships from the original 20. But they were still flying, still fighting. He spotted a group of landing craft heading toward Tokyo and dove to intercept. Viper Squadron hit those transports. "Don't let them land." His remaining fighters followed, missiles streaking out. 3 transports exploded before reaching the ground. It was a small victory, but Taeyong took it. Small victories added up. In her command center, Sora watched multiple screens showing battle data from around the world. She was coordinating communications, hacking enemy systems, doing everything she could to give Earth forces an edge. She was exhausted but driven by stubborn determination. A new encrypted message appeared on her screen. Another transmission from the Hidden Ones. She opened it quickly. "Earth's resistance has sparked rebellions across 5 worlds. The Velthar are pulling ships from other sectors to deal with uprisings. You are not alone. Keep fighting. So Ra felt tears on her face but didn't stop working. They were making a difference. Even if Earth fell, they had done something important. They had shown the galaxy that the Velthar could be challenged. Back on the Indomitable, Deho made his decision. Hyunsu, prepare the device. I'll take it to the flagship. I'm coming with you, Jiwon said firmly. No, yes, she interrupted. You'll need someone to handle the technical aspects. Hyunsu is too valuable to lose. He needs to keep developing weapons. But I can plant the device. And you'll need a pilot. That's you. Deho wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. He couldn't do this alone. Fine, we go together. Hyunsu worked frantically to prepare the destabilizer device. It was crude, built from salvaged Velthar technology and human ingenuity, but his calculations showed it would work. One massive explosion, enough to take out the flagship and damage everything around it. It's ready, he said, handling the device carefully to Deho. Once you activate it, you'll have 10 minutes before detonation. That's not much time to get clear. We'll make it work, Deho said, though he didn't believe it. He and Ji-won headed to the hangar bay Da. As they walked, Ji-won spoke quietly. Deho, I need to tell you something. In case we don't make it back, these past few days, fighting beside you, it reminded me why I joined the military. To protect people. To stand for something. Thank you for that. We're going to make it back, Deho said, but his voice wasn't convincing. They reached the hangar and climbed into a small stealth ship, designed for infiltration missions. It was fast and had good sensors, but almost no weapons or armor. Their only chance was to slip through the battle unnoticed. Admiral Park's face appeared on their screen. Captain, I'm hearing reports of what you're planning. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, Deho replied. Someone has to. And I'm the best choice. Park looked at him for a long moment, then saluted. Good luck, Captain. Earth won't forget what you're doing. The stealth ship launched from the Indomitable, immediately diving into the chaos of battle. Deho flew with all his skill, dodging plasma fire and debris. Ji-won monitored their sensors, calling out threats and opportunities. Velthar patrol, coming from above, she warned. Deho rolled the ship sideways, slipping past the patrol by meters. Sweat dripped down his face. One hit would destroy their fragile vessel. They approached the flagship slowly, using destroyed ships as cover. The Velthar command vessel was enormous, larger than anything humans had built. It bristled with weapons and swarmed with smaller craft. How do we even get inside that thing? Deho wondered aloud. There, Ji-won pointed to a damaged section where their earlier attacks had torn open the hull. That breach is big enough for us. Deho guided the ship toward the breach, holding his breath. They slipped inside the massive vessel. Finding themselves in a dark corridor filled with smoke and emergency lights, they landed in what looked like a cargo bay. Deho and Ji-won grabbed the destabilizer device and emergency weapons, then left the ship. The interior of the Velthar flagship was strange, with corridors too tall and wide for humans. The power core should be in the center of the ship, Ji-won said, checking her scanner. That way. They ran through the corridors, occasionally hiding from Velthar crew members. Every second felt like an hour. Every corner might hide enemies. But they kept moving, driven by desperate purpose. Finally, they reached the power core chamber. It was a massive room filled with glowing energy conduits and humming machinery. The core itself pulsed with blue light, containing enough power to destroy a planet. Here, Ji-won said, placing the destabilizer against the main conduit. This is the spot. She activated the device. Numbers began counting down on its display. 10 minutes. Let's go, Deho said, grabbing her hand. They ran back through the corridors. Faster this time, not caring about being seen. Velthar soldiers spotted them and opened fire. Deho and Ji-won fired back, running and shooting. A plasma bolt hit Ji-won's shoulder and she cried out but kept running. They reached their ship with 4 minutes remaining. Deho fired up the engines and shot out of the breach. Behind them, alarms were blaring throughout the flagship. The Velther knew something was wrong. Faster! G1 urged, watching the countdown. 3 minutes. Day-ho pushed the engines to maximum, flying straight away from the flagship. Other ships tried to intercept them, but Taeyang's squadron appeared, covering their escape. Got your back, Captain. Taeyang called over the 2 minutes. 1 minute. We're not going to make it far enough, Ji-won said quietly. Yes, we are, Daeho insisted, even as he knew she was right. 30 seconds. 20. The destabilizer detonated. The explosion was like a new sun being born. The Velther flagship's power core detonated in a brilliant flash of blue-white light. The shockwave spread outward, consuming everything nearby. The flagship disintegrated instantly. 4 other capital ships caught in the blast were torn apart. Smaller vessels were thrown like toys in a storm. Daeho's stealth ship was caught at the edge of the shockwave. The force threw them spinning wildly through space. Alarm screamed. Systems failed. Ji-won cried out as she was thrown against her restraints. Hold on! Daeho shouted, fighting the controls. The ship tumbled end over end, completely out of control. Daeho couldn't tell which way was up. Then suddenly, something grabbed them. Another ship had caught them with a tractor beam, pulling them to safety. Through the spinning view, Daeho saw it was the Indomitable. We've got you, Captain, came Hyeonsu's voice over the com. Just stay calm. The stealth ship was pulled into the Indomitable's hangar bay. When it finally stopped moving, Daeho slumped in his seat, shaking with adrenaline. They had made it. Somehow, impossibly, they had survived. Medical teams rushed to help them out of the ship. Gi-won's shoulder injury wasn't serious. The plasma bolt had only grazed her. But both of them were exhausted and battered. The battle? Daeho asked immediately. Look, a medic said, pointing to a screen showing the space battle. The Velther fleet was in chaos. With their flagship destroyed and Commander Throck dead, the remaining ships had no coordination. Some tried to continue fighting, but most were pulling back, confused and leaderless. Earth's forces pressed the advantage, hitting them while they were disorganized. On his damaged fighter, Taeyang led his squadron in one final attack run. They targeted the Velther communication ships, the ones trying to restore order to the fleet. One by one, those ships exploded. That's for everyone we lost, Taeyang shouted, his voice raw with emotion, on the ground. Mikyung's forces noticed the alien soldiers beginning to hesitate. Without clear orders from their ships above, the ground troops didn't know what to do. Human soldiers pushed forward, driving the invaders back toward their landing craft. They're retreating, one of Mikyung's officers called out. The Velther are retreating. Mikyung lowered her rifle and watched as alien troops scrambled back to their transports. Some ships left soldiers behind in their haste to escape. Those abandoned troops surrendered quickly. Realizing they had no chance alone. In orbit, the Velther fleet was breaking apart. Some ships tried to form a new command structure, but Sora's jamming kept disrupting their communications. Other ships simply fled, jumping away to hyperspace without coordinating with anyone else. It was a complete rout aboard the Indomitable. Daeho made it to the bridge despite the medic's protests. He needed to see this with his own eyes. The tactical display showed Velther ships scattering in every direction. Earth's fleet, though badly damaged, was still fighting, still pushing forward. Captain, Ji-won said, appearing beside him with her arm in a sling. You should be in medical. So should you, he replied with a tired smile. Admiral Park's face appeared on the main screen. The old man was smiling for the first time in days. All Earth forces, cease fire. The enemy is in full retreat. I repeat, the enemy is retreating. We won, the bridge erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other, crying with relief and joy. They had done it. Earth had survived, but Daeho didn't celebrate yet. He opened a channel to the retreating Velther fleet and broadcast on all frequencies. He wanted every alien ship to hear this message, and he wanted every human to hear it too. Attention Velther forces. This is Captain Daeho of Earth. You came to our world expecting an easy conquest. You thought we would surrender without a fight. You were wrong. Humans do not kneel. We do not give up. We will fight for our freedom with everything we have, no matter the cost. He paused, letting his words sink in. Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them about the species that refused to submit. And know this, if you ever come back, we'll be ready. Earth stands free, and we will help any world that wants to stand free too. We are done being afraid of bullies like you. He closed the channel. The message would spread across the galaxy. Earth had made its statement. Over the next hours, the situation became clear. The Velthor had lost over half their fleet. The survivors had fled to the edge of the solar system and were regrouping, but they weren't attacking. Without leadership and with massive losses, they seemed unsure what to do. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. The Hidden Ones sent congratulations and offers of alliance. Worlds that the Velthor had conquered began reporting uprisings and rebellions. The empire that had seemed invincible was suddenly crumbling. 3 days later, a Velthor ship approached Earth under a white flag. It carried an ambassador who requested to speak with Earth's leaders. Deho was invited to the meeting at the United Earth Council chambers. The Velthor ambassador was different from Commander Throck. This one seemed nervous, almost afraid. Humans, the ambassador began carefully. The Velthor Directorate has reviewed what happened here. This outcome was ... unexpected. We wish to propose a peace agreement. Peace? One council member asked skeptically. After you tried to exterminate us? The Directorate recognizes that Earth cannot be conquered at acceptable cost, the ambassador said. Furthermore, your resistance has inspired rebellions across our empire. Continuing this war would be extremely costly for us. We propose a treaty, we leave your system, and never return. In exchange, you cease encouraging rebellions on our worlds. Deho stood up. No, that's not acceptable. Everyone turned to look at him. The council leader frowned. Captain Deho, this is a diplomatic matter. With respect, this is a military and moral matter, Deho interrupted. We didn't fight just to save ourselves. We fought for the principle of freedom. Those worlds rebelling against you deserve their freedom too. Here's our counteroffer. The Velthor Empire withdraws from all conquered worlds and allows them to govern themselves. Any world that wants to join your empire can do so voluntarily, but no more forced conquests. The ambassador's 4 eyes widened. That would mean the end of our empire. No, G1 said, standing beside Deho. It would mean the beginning of something better. An alliance of equals instead of an empire of slaves. The ambassador was silent for a long moment. Finally, it spoke. I cannot make this decision. I must consult with the Directorate. But I will carry your message to them. The meeting ended. As everyone left, Admiral Park pulled Deho aside. That was bold. Maybe too bold. They might attack again instead of negotiating. Then we'll fight again, Deho said simply. And we'll win again. Because we have something they don't, hope. Over the following weeks, things changed rapidly. The Velthor Directorate, facing rebellions across dozens of worlds and massive military losses, began negotiating seriously. They agreed to a gradual withdrawal from conquered territories. It would take years to implement fully, but it was starting. Earth became a symbol across the galaxy. Other species looked to humanity as proof that freedom was worth fighting for. Ships from various worlds came to Earth, wanting to form alliances, to share technology, to learn from the species that had stood against the impossible. Tayan continued training pilots, now including alien students who wanted to learn human tactics. Sora established a galactic communication network, helping different resistance groups coordinate. Mikyung trained soldiers from other worlds in defensive strategies. Hansu shared Earth's adaptable technology with new allies 6 months after the battle. Deho stood at a ceremony honoring those who had died defending Earth. Thousands had sacrificed their lives. The memorial was a simple garden, with a tree planted for each person lost. It would take decades for all the trees to grow, but eventually, it would be a forest of remembrance. Jawan joined him, her shoulder fully healed. Do you think it will last? She asked. This peace? Probably not forever, Deho admitted. But we've proven something important. We've shown that courage and determination can overcome superior force. That freedom is worth fighting for. That humans, when pushed to the edge, don't break. We adapt, we innovate, and we survive. Humanity? Fuck yeah, G1 said with a small smile. Daeho laughed. Yeah, exactly that. They walked through the memorial garden, reading names, remembering faces. The cost had been high, but they had won something precious. Not just survival, but the right to determine their own future, above them. In orbit, construction crews were building new ships. Earth was preparing for whatever came next, no longer as victims but as equals. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had sparked that change, somewhere out there. Other species were watching, learning, gathering courage. Earth had shown them the way. Now it was time to see how far that path would lead. The future was uncertain, dangerous, and full of challenges. But it was theirs to face, free and unafraid. And that made all the difference.